Morning, my name is Vic. I'm an alcoholic and drug addict. I've been sober since February the 10th of 2023. I was addicted to drugs and alcohol for 45 years. And I went to a treatment facility and I've been sober and doing the deal ever since. Thank you.
All right, so Vic, let's start out with, we're going to talk about your addiction. Can you talk about how it started and how it progressed, and remember to work that into the opening statement of your story here.
Man, how it started and how it progressed, I would like to say, I was a casual, kind of happy guy in the beginning, but it came on like a freight train when it started. Right away, I noticed I was different as far as the consumption, the way I did things. I was real off the chain right away. I was definitely I like to use the metaphorical term as type A personality, but I was just a crazy kid. I come from a non-loving family. I didn't know how to love. So I sought love through distorted places. And I made some kids had to be home when the sun went down. They took roll call once a month on me, make sure I was available to cut the grass when spring came. And I immediately turned to sordid places and sordid folks to feel a part of, so to speak. So I think in summary, what I'm trying to say is it was the drug addiction happened before I ever put drugs in my body, so to speak. But I will say this, I always think about my childhood and what stood out at me that was cool. And so my childhood was so distorted that one thing I remember is my aunt we were at a drive-in movie and I was laying in the backseat of the Country Squire, which a lot of kids don't know what that is. And I just remember her rubbing my head and showing me affection. And I never got that from anybody else in my family. And I was a kid that needed to be reminded, And so with that being said, when I didn't get it, when I drank, it took it was just an effort type of a scenario where I didn't really know how to love or be loved. So what do I know what love is? So the drinking and drugging just kind of helped me kind of roll through life like a whirlwind and just taking prisoners. I didn't have friends and loved ones. I took prisoners. That's what my second wife said. She were my husband and I was your prisoner. If you held my hand or you were sweet to me, I didn't know. I thought there was an angle to it. And that's the way I lived my life. Because if I wanted something from you, I knew what to do. I could be your buddy for 5 minutes. But drinking and drugging just took it away, like a lot of us addicts. It was a little different, but same. And that's what it did, fill that void. The substance abuse, as far as I was an abused child, and I moved to my uncle's house, and there for about 3 years, I really didn't drink, and I smoked a little pot, but I got active in some stuff. So as far as to finish out my childhood, I was just more, but I want to reiterate something. Even though I wasn't using or drinking in my high school years, I was the addictive personality was there. So anyway, the night I graduated high school, senior prom, I totaled my uncle's Corvette under the influence of Quaaludes and beer. So I spent my first 2 years in the military paying him back. The night I graduated boot camp, I had dress whites. I went out, puked all over myself. And the reason I say this is the next morning, the seedy, slithery snake stuff started coming where I put a raincoat on to get out the door to go back out and do it again. And here it is, I'm in boot camp. We're supposed to be afraid of our company commanders. I was not afraid due to the fact I was already in the progression of the disease. So it started there. And then right after 8 years in the military, I right away cocaine was, and that worked for years until quality control went down on the drug, and I'm a quality control specialist. And therefore I moved into the methamphetamine category. And that's when the life became destroyed. That drug destroyed me and what left of my soul I had. And it broke me in a 6-year period of addiction to that. It broke me to a shell of a man and sitting in a chair with a pistol in my hand. That's what that drug did for me. I joined the Navy, I think intuitively, I knew that if I was to go to like to the city college and take Psych 101, that I would just play volleyball and smoke dope and take Psych 101 3 years in a row or something. So there was that part of me that had that, the good wolf, bad wolf. I fed the good wolf that one morning and signed the papers. As far as in the Navy goes, they had piss tests. And once I got in the Navy, I didn't want to go home, because home wasn't home. So I played by the rules, I think, out of fear and respect for the people. I got around guys that, sometimes I respect out of fear sometimes. And I think that that's what the Navy did for me. Plus, I got a job that I love doing that I still do to this day, which is awesome. I'm so grateful to the Armed Forces for that. I can never tell you how grateful I am for that and for the things they did for me afterward. But as far as I was a drinker right away, I was destined. They say it's in your DNA. Yeah, cool. But I was right away. But I noticed right away that I drank more than everybody else. And I like to say this, during that time, my greatest virtue was you didn't have to worry about me sleeping with your old lady because everybody's old lady hated me. And that was my greatest virtue. And I hate to say that now, but that's what I had going in my arsenal of kinship as a man. And I say that jokingly now, but I was just kind of like I looked good in the morning at quarters, but in the afternoon I was a thug. And I held it together for 8 years. Yeah, when I got out of the Navy, the one thing that's critical here is that as an abused child, there was no love in my house. So I grew up in that classic abuse thing where there's no love. You don't know how to love. It's always your fault kind of stuff. And the reason I bring this up is in my last year in the Navy, I got married. I fell in love with a girl that I thought she looked good in the bikini, but I didn't know how to hold hands. I didn't know how to reciprocate love. I didn't know how to do things. So the drug use and alcoholism really blossomed because I didn't know how to be a man in an intimate relationship and call people family. That was very foreign to me. I had no idea of the immaturity level that I had. The military, I had camaraderie, but I didn't have to go home with you guys. I just went to the bar, drank till quarters the next morning. When the relationship came online at the end of the year I got out of the Navy, the social, problems that I had started to really blossom. So it was real easy not to show up at the house and stay loaded. Also at that time, my career started to take off. I was going to Nigeria, Singapore, staying gone for months. She was a stewardess. So we had this in passing relationship, so to speak. So I was able to maintain a level of shittiness for probably 4 years or so until that divorce. But the escalation of the drug addiction and alcoholism really blossomed during that time. And it all really came down to I didn't know how to be a man. I knew how to get into trouble and look like a dude. But as far as being a really settled, good family man, I had no clue. So I took my character defects and ran like a scalded dog. My job, as far as having a job that took some skill, the funny thing is it brought in people with the same mentality, type A personalities, ex-military. And I right away, I was put with a bunch of clowns that I fit in with. As far as being what I do for a living, I go away for periods of time, I'll come home. So it was a perfect scenario for an addict. I used to always refer to it as the floating Betty Ford. I start a fight with my wife, go away for 3 months, come home with a pocket full of money, buy their love, and do it again. The funny thing was the first time I tried to get sober, I could never figure out for the life of me why I always went to work loaded, especially when I started diving saturation. And when I tried to do a 4-step the first time, I realized that I was scared of my job. I wasn't this big, tough guy. And so when I would get called to go to work, I would drink heavily. And the next morning I'd wake up under pressure, hungover, anxiety, blah, blah, blah. And it'd always take me a couple of days to get going. And so I was always kind of lagging, especially towards the end when I was dying. People started to, lie for me and cover me up and to the point where it was hard to cover me up anymore. But as far as the job goes, it was a perfect fit for a sociophobe, crazy man, put me on the bottom of the ocean with a torch in my hand and let me do some work, because I always worked better alone for the longest, until I couldn't work good alone anymore. But the question was, what's the journey and the difficulties I had or something? When you said that 13 months ago, I'd be like, what the hell is he talking about? He's taking a shot at me.
Right.
Today I go, he's taking a shot at me. The layers of it is, I just, like I said, cocaine became a candy, and then I shifted to a higher dose of stuff. And the layers of it are, I lost everything that meant the world to me, which is very common. In a 4-year period, I had as many issues as a man could have and still live to tell the tale. I lost my wife. My career of 22 years went under. I was in a motorcycle wreck. I had a guy that was a little meaner than me, put me in a coma for 6 days. And it's funny, I came out of that coma and my drug intake became insatiable. I became a monster. And everybody and everything that loved me was gone. So, over this last 13 months, I've referred to it as my rock bottom has its perks tour. I ended up with a pistol in my hand in a lawn chair because my furniture was gone. And God came to me in the form of a 30-pound tool bag. And my buddy came in the door. He saw me with the pistol, and he hit me in the head and knocked me out of the chair. So the one thing I've learned in that layer of shittiness is that God has a sense of humor. I wasn't looking for him. He had to come find me. And for that, I'm truly grateful, because I was at a very, very dark place. I went from being the life of the party, raising hell kind of guy, the guy you wanted over at the barbecues. When you make $100,000 a year, you get invited to the big Texas barbecues. But when you're in your last days of addiction and you're dying, that phone ain't ringing. And the loneliness and despair and shame and guilt that I felt, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And for me to sit here today and hold my head up like a man and tell you that if I could go back in time and put my arm around that man, I would tell him I love him. You got to hang on. And for that, I'm truly grateful. Man, that's a great one. The people that were around me when I went to treatment the second time, or to beat the people that were around me, it was like the right place at the right time. They right away, there was a couple of men that were in there with me that showed great humility. Guys that had businesses and family. I've got one man in particular that I just remember he cried every day, and I used to make fun of him until I went to his shop. And I realized this guy was crying because he had a lot of people that needed him. It touched my heart tremendously later. But in the beginning, I was beaten into a state of reasonableness. Everything was gone. And I'll tell you this, I had one wild card left of the deck, and I made a phone call to get me out of there. And the guy gave me a plane ticket, and it's just ties in. I tried to get a ride to the airport. The people from Abita said, no way. I thought that was uncool, hurt my little heart. And then nobody was there to give me a ride. And the miracle of the program started to take as I realized I had to concede that there was nothing left. And what am I going to do about it? It's either get busy living or get busy dying. And I'm so grateful that I made my choice to start living. And right away, the people there didn't take no shit off me. They didn't tolerate it. They had homework. I'm like, homework? But what they did was it was structured to protect me from myself. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's exactly what I needed. I knew that, I was a concept. I knew that you guys were going to get my ship pointed in the right direction, and it was up to me to go find the wind. And what it did was it protected me. But during that time, I made friends. I hadn't made friends in a while. I reached out. I started fighting. And I'm 61 years old, and I've been fighting all my life. Chaos has been my middle name. I've done my best work with my back against the wall. I just was tired. I was an old tired soldier. And so I was able to catch myself and go, look, let's just try, give it a try. And the one thing I did right away was start listening for the message. And that was a miracle for me. And being in the facility, I was able to go every day. There was a couple things that weirded me out, but I was a weird guy. So I just kind of went with the flow, stopped swimming upstream, so to speak. I came to a fork in the road, and I made the right decision for the first time in my life. And it was at a very critical time. Because if I went back on this, if I got on that plane to California, I'm dead today. That's what I do believe. I believe that I came to the end of that journey as who I was. The old Vic had to go away, or he was going to go away forever. I was going to be daisies and fish bait. And I can't even tell you how it worked. Every person I've ever asked, I said, when did the obsession leave you? And most people that I've asked that, they give you a 20-word essay, thesis on, well, I just was in a crawfish boil. I don't know when it went away. I don't know if it ever leaves me, but it's lost a lot of power. And the reason it's lost a lot of power is I went to a beat and I put my feet down, 10 toes down. I dug in, and my God I only prayed to in a foxhole with income. Anytime I was hurting, I was in a foxhole, and I prayed then. It saved me. And what I learned to do was I started doing the practice in Sufism and seeking God, and I started doing it there. And I started to find a God of my understanding and stuff like that. And I had people that loved me unconditionally because I was not a lovable dude when I got there. Grandma didn't even want me. 13 months ago, if you'd have said, trust in the process, the cliche, I would have never bought that t-shirt. I would have never bought that freaking t-shirt. Like, what the hell does that mean? Today, I still don't know what it means, but I do know that my way was killing me, and this way was an easier, softer way, and I'm so grateful I took my wall down. Talking about the extended care and the trip to Nora was just absolutely a miracle. And the funny thing about that was the whole time I was in treatment, my addict brain was still alive and well. And I had a guy who owed me a lump sum of money. And the whole time I was in treatment, they were going, you're going to go to Nora. I'm like, okay, I'm homeless. That's a great idea. But my intentions were to get this lump sum of money the day I graduated from boot camp, so to speak, which was a great. So when I graduated from a very safe, beautiful place, my intentions were to get that money and pop smoke and bail. I wasn't about to go out in the country and hang out with those addicts. And the funny thing was, the first day I got there, I made a phone call, and they didn't have the money. And the very first words out of one of the guys' mouth was, "Shut up." Well, I love a little chaos in my life, so right away I welcomed it, and they didn't kick me out. Thank God. I'm so grateful. They're very patient, good people. And the very first 15 minutes I was there, it was on. The funny thing was, they went and bought a new punching bag, and we got me some stuff over there, and things started to loosen up. It's so funny. I'm one of those guys. I'm a runner. When the heat gets hot, I'm going to start some chaos, and I'm bailing. Well, we're out in the country, so if you're running, you're going to be running like Forrest Gump. Get to town is a long way away, and everybody knows we're in recovery. So there you go. There's one of those guys. So I wasn't hitchhiking. So I decided not to fight, and I just started to lay down a little bit, and it was so funny is that they got me a gym. The things started to pop up that were needed to help me in my journey. The gym membership they got us. To this day, I'm still a member of that gym. It's awesome to go there and just, do a little something. My legs started to work better. I had the surgeries on my legs. My legs were working. And I started to make friends. There's a man that was there with me the whole 6 months. I'd like to keep his anonymity. His name's Wiley. He's been a really good friend to me. The miracle for me was the sponsor found me. The guy came in the room one day. I made a horrible joke. I was really shitty because I was in a bad place. And he started laughing. And I go, "Who is that?" And it was my sponsor. And to this day, he's still my sponsor. So miracles like that started to happen. The Nora experience was fantastic. We were out in the country. We had a beautiful, beautiful facility, a great place to sort it out. And during that time at Nora is when my son and I reconnected. When my brother died, my son, everybody just disowned me. And I had one of the most moving, spiritual, coming to Jesus, just tears of just flowing tears happened at that facility. And that was the day my son got out of the car, and he don't talk much. He's an action guy. And he brought me a gift of goodwill, and it touched my heart beyond belief. And that was at about the third month. And that was enough to propel, that was a catalyst to really dig in and trust the process, trust the people, be grateful for a roof over my head, be grateful and start moving. And for that, I will always be, whatever I can do, including this deal right here, it means the world to me to give back as much as I can, because I'll never be able to give back what they gave me. What recovery means to me today, what a loaded question. If you'd asked me 13 months ago what recovery meant to me, I was just trying to save my ass. I just wanted to quit doing methamphetamine and drinking Jameson. Obviously, it curtails a lot more than that. And, the one thing that recovery means to me is I was able to give myself grace. When they use the word surrender, I'm a dude, man. I'm an ex-military guy. Surrender. I'm a Cowboys fan, man. With the word surrender, I was able to stop, pause, and just give myself some grace and start the journey. That was, which was a miracle, because I'm always running. Recovery today means when I woke up this morning, I have a choice. 13 months ago, I didn't have a choice. 13 months ago, I was broken. I had nothing. I had no family, didn't want to talk to me. My brother was dead. My girlfriend was dead. And life was bleak at best. Today, recovery, I have a relationship with my son and my daughter. I've regained my career. And that sounds cliche, but the one thing I've got is a peace of mind that is so awesome to wake up and see the sky is blue, and that there's people out there that really care. I always thought if you cared, you had an angle. I never trusted anybody. Today, I still a little skittish. It's 7 miles in the woods, 7 miles out. I ain't cutting across the parking lot anymore. I don't size people up as much anymore. I used to always have to have a villain. I always got to have that person to pick on. I always had to, because if I could keep the heat off me, you wouldn't know how big of a piece of shit I was. Today, I'd still like to pick on people, but I do it in a loving, caring, kind of jovial way. Everything has changed for me today. I rode a bicycle up here like a Jehovah's Witness, but I'm grateful to have that bicycle to ride. I don't see so much the bad in things anymore. If I do, I make joke. I try to make light of it. There's been a huge shift. It's really nice to know where your car keys aren't. I don't wake up with my hair on fire anymore. I found a God of my understanding, so to speak. And I don't want to use all these cliches from treatment, but recovery has given me a second chance at life. There's great quotes out there, a well-lived today gives you hope for tomorrow, and yesterday's bravery is today's status quo. I love that quote, because I know yesterday I gave it my all, and so today I got a chance at life. 13 months ago, I didn't have that chance. I was just flying running like a scalded dog. And I was dying a little bit at the time. And no, it's waking up, sobering up in a later age is just as doable as a young person. The only problem is the damage it's done is obviously a lot more greater. There's a lot of people that are dead now. There's a lot of people that are not going to take those amends. They're either in another country or they cut ties with me a long time ago. One of the biggest hurdles I had to get over was just to start with amends to myself. And And today, I'm an old man, but I've got a young heart. I've always been a juvenile delinquent, and that will never leave me. But now it's in a good way. I love to see people happy. What I did learn in the old age is when I woke up and came to, I realized I had a lot of virtues on the shelf. They were just covered in dust. And I've been knocking the shit off of them and covering them with pledge and recapturing what it is. And I'm so grateful that, before I expired and went on, that I was able to get that second chance. Man, what would I share with my fellow brother veterans and sisters that are struggling and don't want to ask for help? Well, I've got a black belt in that. I really do. And for me, I had to be half dead and crawl into the facility. I don't recommend it that way, but what I do know is it just starts with that first step, man. Life is worth living. Whether money in the bank, no money in the bank, girlfriend, no girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. I know this much: when I was broken, I wanted to end it. And today I sit here very grateful to be speaking to these fine folks in this room and to take their time out to help us. And it just takes that first step. And I don't know what that first step looks for you, but I do know this: if you got a cough and you need to go see a doctor, go to the VA. Well, that's what I did. I kind of went in there and said, hey, I've got a little problem. But obviously by that point in time, it was very rare. I had a little bit of blood in my meth. So everybody knew that I had a little drug problem. And I thought, even at that moment, I don't know if I didn't care or I thought I had them still schmoozed over, you know what I mean? But for me, it started out with a doctor's visit. I stuck a piece of metal through my leg and tried to hide it. And so the doctor's visit kind of turned into an assessment, so to speak. But it was one of the best. It's the best thing I ever did, man. And it comes down to this, it's like live or die. Because if you're thinking about it, nobody can tell you, obviously, because I couldn't be told but I did it before it was too late. But I started out by going to the doctor because I was hurt. And it made it easy for me. For you, it may start with prayer, maybe just a couple of minutes of sitting in a swing outside and trying to get right, just, search. It can be done. It can be done anyway, man. By the lake, inside a jail cell, wherever it is, man. Circumstances got us to this point. Circumstances helped me make a decision. Being beaten in that state of reasonableness got me there. But it doesn't have to go that far for you. It could just be just a simple phone call and just talk to people, man. Because these people here they don't want nothing from you except for the best for you. They got my boat pointed in the right direction, and I had to learn how to find my favorable winds. And I'd have never found those favorable winds without these folks. And for that, I am truly grateful. And that is not cliche. So I wish everybody the best.